Hey, welcome back guys. This is episode 2 of protective gear to pressure test your self-defense training. Today we're going to be talking about boxing gloves, full-size normal boxing gloves. Please have a look at episode 1 if you haven't yet, because that explains the general overview of why we should definitely be using some forms of protective gear to pressure test properly your system. If you're not pressure testing your system, it's probably not going to work in a street fight. So, gloves today, boxing gloves. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what type of gloves we should be getting, what size, what level of padding, how the different types of padding work, whether it's a soft padding or a hard padding. And we're also going to be talking about how to use them for your self-defense practice. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the density of the padding. How dense do we want it? Do we want soft padding or hard padding? If the padding is too soft, now this is not a full boxing glove, but it's the softest one I've got just for demonstrational purposes. If you look at this, you can see it's super, super squishy, okay? Now if you punch someone with that, with just that sort of pressure, it's fine. Anything more than that, because it's so soft, it will completely compress and you're essentially still getting punched by a knuckle when you get hit. I've tried this out. I've had my wife punch me in the head and yeah, light pressure, it's okay, but anything more than that, I'm like clunk, ow. I feel her knuckles on my forehead when she throws the punch with that. So it's too soft. Now, taking this one as the opposite end of the scale, this one is quite dense padding. It's a very firm padding. Okay, this is a small glove. It's only an 8 ounce, but it's very hard, the padding. So I've had my training partner punch me straight in the jaw with that glove comparatively to say this glove. Now this glove is also a slightly bigger glove, but I've had him punch me even with this one compared to say this one. Now this is a small glove, but it's a softer padding. So with this one, under those light to medium punches, yes, you're protected from the knuckles, but you're still getting hit in the jaw by something very solid. So it still really rattles your brain around. That's the main thing we're looking at, is how much does it shock your head and how much does your brain swish around inside your skull. So essentially what you can say is, for light pressure, touch contact, or a little bit more than that, just light pressure contact, this gives you the most protection. When you get hit with this, you go, oh, that's nice. It's like a little cushion hitting my face. When you get hit with this, you're like, oh, that's not pleasant. It really shakes your brain around, or busts your nose up. This just squishes over your nose, or your eye, or your ear, wherever it's going to hit. It molds around it. But then when you go up to the heavier pressure side of the coin, if I would hit you full force with this, it compresses to nothing under that full pressure, whereas this one doesn't compress to nothing. So if you were going to hit me full pressure, I would rather you hit me with this than with this. But light pressure, I'd rather you hit me with this than with this. So you've got to decide how much force are you using as to what type of glove you might want to use in your training. But then the other thing you can look at is the thickness of the padding. So if you have something that's thin padding, now I'm crossing back to some of the MMA, even though this lesson is on the main gloves, but just to demonstrate some thin padding. If you have thin padding, which is soft, you just go, and it's gone. It's gone in an instant by just doing that. So it's not going to offer very much protection. Whereas this padding is also very nice and soft, but look how thick it is. Look, it's like that. There's so much padding on that. So even though it's soft, it's unlikely to fully compress under even the hardest of punches. Now sure, a full contact punch, it will probably still fully compress. The reason it's unlikely to fully compress under even a full contact, as hard as you can punch, is that the thing you're hitting goes with the movement, you see. If you were unlucky enough, it can fully compress. Like if you are unlucky enough while you're doing your fighting training, if the guy throws the punch just at the moment where you move in, for example, so effectively your head is meeting the glove force on force, because your head is traveling forward, you're likely to completely compress that, and that's going to be a really bad hit. But at least 99% of the time, when you get hit, you at least go with the punch. So even if you've done the wrong thing, you haven't got your guard up, so you've been hit, but at least you learn to go with the flow of the punch. So it's very difficult to get this padding to compress all the way unless the thing you're hitting doesn't move or comes towards you. So effectively what I'm saying is, yes, even the biggest of gloves can still compress all the way, and then you're still getting hit by what is essentially nothing more than a small MMA glove, because that, squished, comes down to about the same as a normal MMA glove. But the chances of that are very, very slight. So 90% of the time, probably 99% of the time, you're not fully compressing the padding. So like I say, for what you do, you need to decide. If you only do very light contact, well, something like that little blue glove would be perfect for you, because it doesn't do any damage under light pressure. Whereas for what we do, I like to have something a little bit firmer. This is certainly a lot firmer than that blue glove, but it's soft enough so that when you get hit, you see, square on the nose with those light shots, it's soft enough that your nose still squishes into it. You see, it's not like this glove, which, see, it doesn't squish in. Look, that's hitting me square on the nose. It's not molding around my nose under those light pressures. I guess it would probably mold, maybe it would mold a little bit under a really heavy shot, but you're still putting all that pressure on your nose before it molds around it. This glove will squish around your nose nicely, so you don't get that broken nose when you train. And the same thing goes for any punch, especially to the head. The head is the main region we need to be careful of. The torso is not such a bother. You can take a hard punch even without a glove once you're trained to that level. You can also put on a thin chest shield of some kind that doesn't restrict your movement too much, and you can take harder punches like that as well. So that same thing I was talking about with the nose, the same principle applies when you're getting hit just straight across the jaw, or across the temple, or anywhere. Even though it's not squishing around something, like around the nose and onto the cheekbones, but it's still squishing. That's a crumple zone. So that's the same concept as when your car crashes into a wall. If your car crashes into a wall, you stop almost instantly and you all die. Whereas if you crash into a wall that's got those, you see them on the motorway, those big barrels full of water, that slows down the deacceleration. In this case, we're slowing down the acceleration. If I hit you with a bare knuckle, your head accelerates from stationary to moving very, very quickly. That's where your brain, your skull goes, but your brain gets left behind, okay? It's like, take a bucket of water. If you move the water very quickly, the water will spill out because the water doesn't go with you. That's your brain. Your brain is swishing around in water inside your skull. So if you can slow down that acceleration to any degree, your brain is not going to get left behind as much. So your brain will move with your skull, therefore not giving you a headache at the least, and not giving you brain damage at the worst in terms of if you do it over and over and over. So anything we can use to slow down that acceleration of when your head gets hit, the better. So the thicker the padding with a firm but malleable density is going to be your best bet. Now, again, getting back to that risk factor that I was talking about in the introduction video for this series, even with a massive glove like that, if you take a full powered punch anywhere to the head, you are still going to swish your brain around inside. And that done over and over on a regular basis is what gives you brain damage, okay? Little bumps like this, that's not going to give you anything really. So what we tend to do to minimize that risk factor, but still pressure test what we do, when we're free sparring, so anything goes, We only use light to medium force under those circumstances. But we pressure test full force with a set drill. For an example, instead of us going total freestyle, you don't know whether I'm going to punch you in the head or in the body or kick you or grab you, anything, there's much more chance I'm going to hit you when there's all that stuff involved. But if the only thing I'm allowed to do as the attacker is straight punches and hooks, for example, the other guy now, okay, you're throwing those punches at me. I only have to worry about those set things. So now it's much less likely that I'm going to get hit because I've only got two different types of strikes to worry about. So now the way I train for myself, everyone chooses their own level. I don't tell my students, you must train at this level or that level. Every student chooses their own level of pressure, their own risk level that they're comfortable with. Myself personally, if I'm free sparring, light to medium pressure. If I'm doing set little combinations and drills, still free, so I don't know which punch he's going to do, but as I say, just straights and hooks, for example. So headshots, effectively. Now I'll say, no, you swing those at me full force, because I know there's not much chance of him connecting with one. Even if he does connect with one, at least I'm going with it. So I might not get my guard hand up. Maybe I've tried to throw an attack and he's coming through here and I've just done the wrong thing. But I will at least, last minute, as that's about to hit me, I'll at least move my head to the side. So I'm still lessening that blow by a huge degree. I'm not taking that full-powered punch across my head. So again, that's up to you as to how much risk factor you want to impart in your training. So the next thing I want to talk about is weight of the glove. Now, most people will tell you, okay, so you want to do some sparring. What size glove should you get? Oh, you want a 16-ounce glove for sparring because a 16-ounce glove is heavier, so therefore it has more padding, right? Not always the case. I've seen 16-ounce gloves which have less padding than some 12-ounce gloves. It all depends on the make of the glove as to how much padding you're going to get. So different brands will use different amounts of padding and also different density levels of padding. So that's something you need to literally go to the shop and physically feel out the glove. The general idea that I would give you, what I do if I'm testing something out in a shop, different if I'm at home, I'll get someone to put the glove on and punch me with it. But if you're testing out in the shop before you're going to buy it, one thing is to take the glove and just, first of all, just feel it. Think, oh yeah, it's fairly difficult to push all the way in until that padding is fully compressed. Whereas if I put on, say, this glove, much smaller glove, much less padding, there, it's compressed. Boom. It's fully compressed much sooner. So you can tell straight away that glove is going to give me a hell of a lot more protection than this glove. A better test is to impact, punch it, and knock your speakers over. Go like that. How much can you feel your knuckles inside connecting with your palm? Again, if I use the very small glove with not much padding, just under light pressure, I can feel my knuckles straight away. I can feel that the padding is completely compressing. Whereas with the bigger glove, I've got to hit much, much harder and really slam in with the other hand. So there's that force on force to get it to touch, to get the padding to completely compress. The other thing you want to test, I like to do the nose test. You can generally tell that just by feeling it, but maybe if no one in the shop's looking, just take off your glasses and just go. Yeah, that's a nice one. Okay. This one. Oh, I know. That really squishes my nose. It hurts when I push it into my nose, so it doesn't mold around my nose. So that's another test you can do. Now, the most important thing that I've never seen anyone else talk about when it comes to gloves is the width of the glove. The width of the glove relates to how much padding you'll get on the top. So if you take two 16-ounce gloves, for example, but one is wider, they both weigh the same. Therefore, they have the same amount of padding within them because they have to be on that weight level. But if you have another glove which is much wider, but they weigh the same, that means that weight, therefore that padding, is spread out over a wider glove. Therefore, you've got less padding this way over the knuckles. To give you an example, this glove, this Rival, this is, look at the size difference, okay? I think you can tell just by looking at that, this is a much bigger glove. It's a wider glove, right? Now, most people looking at that, they'd say that's the bigger glove. This is only a 12-ounce glove. This is a 16-ounce glove. This is the bigger glove. But it's bigger where it counts. It's bigger this way to protect the person's face when you punch it. A wider glove doesn't give you any more protection. Well, unless you're using the glove as a shield. So if you've got a big wide glove and you're using the glove to block with, as some styles do, because that's what they do in their competitions, well then yes, that'll give you more protection. But we don't use the gloves to defend ourselves because we're working for self-defense. So therefore, a wider glove does not give you any more protection as far as getting hit. But what it does mean is that all that padding is actually spread out. Now, as I said, this is only a 12-ounce. In the shop, I tried on the 16-ounce, and they even do an 18-ounce. This glove is bigger than this glove, yet it's 2 sizes smaller in weight. The 16-ounce version of this glove was even wider again. So if I were to, I don't have that here, I didn't buy the 16-ounce, but if I were to compare the 16-ounce Rival to the 16-ounce Sting, you'd notice it'd be like another little bit, it'd be out here kind of thing. So you could see then that the difference, but please note, this one has way more padding over the knuckles. So from the testing I've done, I feel I much prefer getting punched by this glove than I do by the Rival. The other interesting point is that the narrower the glove is, the more realistic it is. Like I said, this is only a 12-ounce, yet it's really wide. So the 16-ounce is that much wider again. So if I'm trying to, I won't bother putting it on, but if I'm trying to hit you with that, you might think your defense is good, your defense is tight, because I can't get through. Keep in mind, think about if I was wearing the 16-ounce version of this, okay? So I can't get the punch through. Then I throw it with a real punch, and it gets through the gap. Now, okay, this is still a hell of a lot bigger than a real fist, but it's closer. So you can never get a glove that offers maximum protection with the same size as your own fist. That's impossible. But the closest you can get to it, the better. So the narrower glove is the better for self-defense use. So this particular make, Sting Armorlite, they're a nice cheap glove, so you don't have to spend a lot of money. They're only $50, that's Australian dollars. But yeah, they are the narrowest that I've found. I've bought probably about 25 different types, sizes, brands of normal boxing gloves over the last couple of years, testing them all out. And these are the narrowest, the smallest that I can find that have huge padding. To give you an example, so the Rival I was talking about before, that's the biggest that I've ever seen as far as width of glove. This is the smallest, but on average, this one here, this is also a Sting, but a different make, a different model. This is the Armor Plus. Now, this glove is only a 12-ounce compared to this 16-ounce. I've measured them, and the width of the glove is the same. So as far as getting it through a gap or something, it's the same. But also, because this is a 16-ounce, you've got so much more. Those extra 4 ounces is giving you 4 ounces more padding on the top. Whereas this glove, same width, but that's only a 12-ounce, so there's nowhere near as much padding and protection on the top. So yeah, this glove I would say this is a general average size for a 12-ounce. So the 14 or the 16 or the 18, they're going to go up in size for that model in general. As with all models, go up in size, obviously, with the weight. But this one, the 16-ounce, is about physically the same width, same diameters as the average 12-ounce in other makes, making it, in my opinion, the best glove that I've found so far for our self-defense practice. Now, it is a cheap glove. It's only $50, as I said. But now a boxer would probably wear this out quite quickly, okay? Since it's a cheap glove. I'm guessing, I don't know, I haven't had it for a long time, but I'm guessing it wouldn't have that great wear in comparison to a much more expensive thing like this Rival. This was about $120, and especially in comparison to a really expensive glove. This is the cheapest end of the scale. However, in your self-defense practice, or at least in what we do, very rarely do we make contact with the glove on something, unless it actually hits someone in the face or the body, which should be rare. You shouldn't be getting hit too much too often, because the way we should be working it is that if I'm working with a student and they're getting hit 90% of the time, well, I need to take a step back. I need to go easier on them. If they're never getting hit, I need to go more. So you want to work at that sort of pressure and speed level that they're getting hit sometimes, so you're pushing them, but not getting slammed all the time, okay? Whereas, for example, in boxing, like a classic boxing block, you know, going like this, so they're hitting on like solid forearms constantly because that's one of their blocking motions. We don't use that block, right? So I'm not going to go into how our techniques work in this lesson. So for most of the stuff that we do, it's very rare. It does happen, but it's very rare where this part of the glove is the bit which contacts. 90% of the time, if there is contact, it's here or here where we're attacking the arm. Therefore, not wearing out the glove, especially the padding in the glove. You're not wearing it down. So when you're doing your bag work or your pad work, we never use the gloves. A, because most of the time we use open palms anyway, but even if we are using the punches, say to the body, we want to know that we can throw a punch without hurting our wrist. The bag is soft anyway, so you shouldn't be having any problem with damaging your hand. But yeah, we don't want to wear wrist wraps and all of that kind of stuff and protection over the knuckles, because we want to know how to punch as we will in the street. So for that reason as well, they won't wear down because we're not using them to do our pad work. By the way, if for some reason you're tempted to use your sparring gloves on your bag, don't, because you will wear down the padding. The padding will gradually lose its spring, then you'll go to hit your partner and you'll think you've got all that spring in it, but you've actually worn down the padding. So make sure you never ever use the glove you work with a partner with. Don't use it on bags or pads or anything else. That glove is only for one thing, and that is to hit people. So in my club, I do not allow people to bring in their own gloves, as in other makes and models, with the exception of if they bring them in, I'll look at them and I'll say, yeah, no, that's a good glove. You're allowed to use that. Because I need to know that the glove that those two people are using is offering the protection that I'm comfortable with in that session. Whereas a lot of clubs, they just say, yep, as long as it's 16 ounces, then that's all good. For me, no, there's so much difference in the different models of 16 ounces. My club will all use that same glove, so they all have the same level of protection. As I said, sometimes exceptions will be made if someone already has a really good set of boxing gloves that are similar, well then I'll allow it. So the last thing I'll talk about is how. I mentioned in the beginning, how do we use boxing gloves without changing our reflex to always wanting to use fists instead of palms? Well, that's quite simple. Only one of us actually ever wears the big boxing gloves. Different when we move on to the MMA. I'll talk about that in the next episode. But with the large gloves, only one of us wears them. So to give you an example of how we practice and pressure test our stuff. Right, I want to practice my techniques. I want to practice my system as I practice it. My partner then plays the role of the attacker, okay? So he puts on the gloves. He also puts on the face shield. He also puts on a chest shield, for example. I might wear a mouth guard because I'm still going to get punched in the chin or something. So I'll wear some little protective things that I may want to wear, but not gloves. So now my partner can attack me with full force, but I can defend against it, keeping my hands open and free and practicing my art as it was intended to do. I can still deliver shots as well. Now, I can't hit him hard in the head because these kind of things don't stop the shock and the whip on the neck and that kind of stuff. They do to a degree, that one actually. Again, I'll talk about that in the headgear lesson. But I can at least contact. Instead of just working my defense, I can at least work my boom and put in some form of contact to practice my palm strikes. I can even practice my finger strikes with those on. Because he's wearing the chest full body protector, I can put in my punches to the body as hard as I want. So I can effectively get everything that I want to practice. I can do my eye strikes, I can do my palm strikes. We even have a neck brace, which I don't have at the moment, but I'll do a lesson on that when I get it. So you can at least, you can't hit it hard on the neck, but you can at least make some contact. So I can effectively have full force attacks coming in on me, but with that little bit of protection, because he's wearing the big gloves, I can defend against full-powered attacks and reissue full-powered body attacks and light to medium contact finger and palm strikes to the head, as well as elbows. So when I'm practicing my Taiji and Bagua, I don't have the gloves on, so I'm not changing my reflex action. Now, playing the part of the attacker, doing that simulation, that role-playing self-defense idea, yeah, you could still say, well, you're changing your response there. You're still programming into punch. But I do feel that when you put on that gear and you're like, right, I'm the thug, I'm going to go out and hurt this person, you're doing a different thing to, oh, damn, this guy's going to try to hit me. I'm now in defensive mode. This guy's going to try to hurt me. So now I'm training my palms when I feel threatened and in defensive mode. So that programming is linking up. Whereas when I got the gloves on, I'm in attack mode. I'm going out to hurt someone. So my fists only clench when I'm going out to hurt someone, which I'll never do in the street. So hopefully, most of the time, I will still open my palm in a street fight. Okay, so that wraps it up for information about the boxing gloves themselves. So next lesson, we will go on to the MMA sparring gloves. Enjoy your day, guys, and I'll see you soon.